I'm going to show you how to tackle nasty, nasty questions like this. Now, this is a horrible GCSE question. There is so much going on. I'm just going to show you guys what to do when you're stuck on questions like this. I'm not going to go straight and be like, oh, look, so rhombus means you've got to do it like this. No. Imagine you've read the question and imagine you're completely stuck. Most people probably are, and they just have no idea how to proceed. Step one of my stuck mode is ignore the bits that's getting you stuck. Step two is focus on the math. So let me show you what you can do. Imagine that you just hate all the words, you just don't get it, but you just want to try and do something that gets you a mark. This is a 4-mark question, okay? Please don't try and answer the question. This is only the 4th mark out of 4. Let me show you how to actually tackle this thing. Just ignore every single word that you get. If you're just trying to tackle this, you're just trying to get 1 mark because you're completely stuck. These are words, you can ignore them. These are words, you can ignore them. Ignore, ignore, blah, 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 maths. Blah, 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 maths. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, if you want to get marks on this question, it's going to be something to do with that and something to do with that. Now, one thing that you can do if you have coordinates is plug them into an equation. I'm just going to do that here. Although I'm going to just give you a little warning. This is not going to get you any marks in this particular case, but very often it will do. This is an x value. This is a y value. And so what you could do is take the 6 and whack it into the x, and take the 11 and whack it, minus 11 and whack it into the y. And what this would do is it basically tells you if that point lies on that line. Sometimes this might be equals C or something, and you might have another letter that you've got to go and find, in which case this is exactly how you go and get the marks. In this case, if we actually put these two numbers in, okay, it'll be like this, plus 7 bracket 6 equals 20, okay? And we could go and figure this out. 2 brackets minus 11. Remember, whenever I substitute a letter for a number, I just put brackets. 7 bracket 6, and then do equals, and this is, sorry, this is equal 20. Okay, fine. So this is 20 equals 20, tick. So what that means is this point lies on this line, okay? So M, this is M, so therefore M lies on this L, whatever that line is. Now, we're not getting a mark for that in this question. The question hasn't said, does it lie on this line or anything? It's actually, if you read the question, I think they're just saying there's some rhombus AC is, and M is on this line. They just tell you that anyway. Anyway, I'm just showing you what you can possibly do to get marks on questions like this. It didn't take us very long to do that. It's very often the thing that will get you a mark on a question like this. In this particular case, it doesn't get us a mark. So we're just going to move on. So we tried something, fine. Now, what else could we do? You can't do anything with 6 minus 11. That's just a thing. That's just one coordinate. If you had 2 coordinates, then you could go and find the midpoint. Then you could go and find the gradient. You could do rise over run. You can go and do stuff if you had 2 coordinates, but we only have 1 coordinate. So the only thing you can do with that is plug it into an equation. We've done that, done. Now, what else could I do? Does anyone have any idea, like one thing I could do with that equation? Given this is a coordinates question, like a graphs coordinates question. Does anyone have any idea what I could do? So look, without even reading the question, this is nothing to do with rhombus and diagonals, and I'm just doing stuff. 2y plus 7x equals 20. So let's rearrange that to get y as the subject. So I'm going to minus 7x from both sides. Okay, so I'm going to get 2y equals, you could write 20 minus 7x. However, because this is a graphs question, you actually want to try and get into the habit of doing this, writing the x value first. And the reason is that this is like mx plus c. It's just a good habit to get into, that the first thing you write is the x, then you write the number. Now you want to get rid of this 2, so you want to divide it. Okay, now in a normal algebra question, you could divide the whole thing by 2. But again, because this is a graphs question, you want to write it in a certain way. You want to keep your x value and your number separate. So instead of dividing the whole thing by 2, you want to divide each of them by 2. Okay, so 20 divided by 2 is 10. And this is a more advanced way of writing it. Now, the fact that this is written like y equals mx plus c, this is basically the gradient. That's what I hate y equals mx plus c because m is the gradient. Why would m be the gradient? It doesn't seem to make sense. It's annoying, I know. And this is plus c. This is called the y-intercept. So You know that for this line, the gradient of this line is minus 7 over 2. So gradient equals minus 7 over 2, and the y-intercept is equal to 10. Without even reading the question, do you guys know something else that you could do here? Is there anything else that you could do with these new numbers? When you're given a gradient, is there something you can do to a gradient that changes it and does something else? Or is there something you can do to a y-intercept? This always happens in these kind of questions. If you ever get around 22, towards the end of a paper, you get any question on gradients, there's always one thing you can do, which I promise you will always get you a mark. It's to find the perpendicular gradient, flip it and minus it. So if you take this gradient, flip it upside down, and then minus it. So change the sign. So here it is negative, so you flip it to positive. This is the perpendicular gradient. I'm basically just giving you the ingredients of like how to get marks on questions like this. And again, I haven't even read the question. Now I know the perpendicular gradient is 2/7. There is one thing that you then always do with this number. If you know the gradient of a line, very, 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 very often in maths papers, you can then write y equals mx plus c, but with the new gradient. Now, listen, if you're finding this too difficult and you only manage to get up to here, then it doesn't matter. You're still actually getting a bunch of marks on this question. I'm just showing you some stuff that you can do in questions when you don't understand what's going on. But y equals mx plus c is often very useful. It's often very useful to do this. And basically, this is now some line that has a gradient of 2/7, which is perpendicular to the original line. So if the original line was like that, this line would be like that at 90 degrees. Now, is there anything you could think of doing to an equation of a line? One really useful thing to do, and it's why I showed you this to begin with, is if you're stuck on a question, but you have one coordinate, you can plug it into an equation. So we tried plugging it into this equation and it just said 20 equals 20. That wasn't very useful. But we still have this coordinate of 6 minus 11. It's the only coordinate that we have in the question, 6 minus 11. So why not shove it into this new equation? Let's just see what happens. It's, you know, you're not going to lose anything. You might lose a couple of minutes of stuff. But if you're at the end of a paper and you've got 10 minutes anyway, why not just try and do stuff like this? This is an x value. This is a y. So I'm going to take the 6, shove it into there. I'm going to take the minus 11 and shove it into there, just because it's something that I could do. So minus 11 equals 2/7 brackets, whatever x is. Here it's 6 plus c. This is annoying me, so I'm going to put it into my calculator. 2/7 brackets c. This is why I always use brackets for substitution, because you don't even need to know what this means. Your calculator does it for you, 12 over 7. Technically, what you're doing here is multiplying a fraction by a number, so you only need to times the top. 2 times 6 is 12, and the bottom stays the same. But you didn't need to know that because you're just using brackets and substitution. So minus 11 equals 12 over 7 plus c. Now we might as well get c by itself, right? C equals c plus 12 over 7 equals minus 11. So I want to minus 12 over 7 from both sides. So now I get c equals minus 11 minus 12 over 7. Oh my gosh, how nasty. Yes, I know, but it doesn't matter. So you just go minus 11 minus brackets 12 over 7, something nasty, but it doesn't matter. Your calculator does it for you. So c here is equal to minus 89 over 7. How disgusting, yes, but and now it's like, well, is there anything I could do with this number? And you're just doing so. Is there anything I could do with that number? Now, look, I might be completely wrong. I might be barking up the wrong tree on this question. All I'm doing is like the only thing I could do at each stage. Once again, I genuinely have not read this question. I do not know what they're asking me to do. But look how much work I've got. It's very likely that I'm getting marks for loads of this stuff. But basically, once you know C, you could put it back into there, and it would tell you that actual equation. So now I've got that y is equal to 2/7 x minus 89 over 7. And now I feel like I'm sort of finished. The only thing I could do is say this is the gradient. Say this is the gradient. And again, this is the y-intercept. So I could say the y-intercept is equal to minus 89 over 7, and the gradient here is equal to 2/7. Now it's like, could I do something with this gradient and this y-intercept? I don't think so. I now don't have, I've now run out of ideas. I've run out of things to do. There's no, I can't flip that and minus it and find the perpendicular gradient because I've already done the perpendicular gradient over there. I've maxed out. I've done everything I can with the ingredients that I had in the question, which was one coordinate, one equation. I've maxed out. Now let me go and look at the actual question. I know I'm going past a tiny bit. I'm just going to finish this question because I think it's really important and then we'll finish. Let me now uncover the whole question and we're going to see what the question's actually asking. Okay, let's have a look. The question says, ABCD is a rhombus. Okay, so now and only now am I going to try and answer the question. Now, if you actually understand this question, this is how you should answer it from the beginning. But again, I'm just showing you what to do if you're stuck. So rhombus is like this, pushed over square. So A, B, C, D is a rhombus. The diagonals, that's AC, that's BD, meet at the point M, which has coordinates. So this has coordinates 6 minus 11. It doesn't have to be accurate. It doesn't have to be, oh, wait, I should draw that. That's positive X. Oh, no, that means that the coordinates have to be like it doesn't matter. Just roughly draw it. A and C both lie on this line. So this line here has equation 2y plus 7x equals 20. Okay. They've asked me to find the exact coordinates at the point where this line crosses the y-axis. Okay. So let me get you see how difficult this is? These are perpendicular. Okay. So the perpendicular thing is good. The gradient of the line AC is what we found here, minus 7 over 2. So this minus 7 over 2, so the gradient of this equals minus 7 over 2. So if we flipped it and minused it, we would get the gradient of this line, which is 2/7. Now, do I know the equation of this line? Well, to find the equation of a line, what you need to do is to write y equals mx plus c, but with this as your gradient, and then substitute in the coordinates of a point that lie on that line. There's only 3 points in this question that you know lie on that line, B, M, and D, and you only know the coordinates of one of them, which is M. So what you would do is take the coordinates of M and substitute those coordinates into the equation for the line BD. If I'm losing you here and this feels too difficult, this is exactly why I did this stuff before. This is what we did. This is what we did, but you don't have to understand it to get the marks. You just have to do anything you can. This is the equation of BD, okay? Because this is the perpendicular gradient 2/7. We substituted this point into that line, which is the coordinates of M, and this is actually the correct thing to do here because M lies on BD. The difficult questions, you might have a question where you had 2 coordinates and you didn't know which one to plug in. If you're really stuck, just plug them both in separately. Do this and separately plug in a separate point and just write it all down. You get loads and loads of marks. One of them will be right, one of them will be wrong. The one that will be right will be the coordinates of the point that lie on that line. If you knew the coordinates of A, for example, and substituted them into the line, the equation of the line BD, this would just be a wrong thing to do because it doesn't lie on that line. But you wouldn't lose marks for writing it. You just wouldn't get any marks for writing that. So this was correct. And then we found the equation of this line. So this was the equation. So this is actually the true equation of the line BD. And the question says, find the exact coordinates of the point where the line through B and D intersect the y-axis. This is the y-intercept. This is this number that we wrote down at the end. We wrote down the y-intercept is minus 89 over 7. And so to get the final mark for this actual question, what you would have to do is to convert this into coordinates. So that's the y value, and the x value would be 0, because anywhere on the y-axis is 0. Look how many marks I got on this question without even reading it. I got 3 out of 4. And I very, very, very nearly got the 4th mark. Do you see that? What's the difficulty level from 3 to 4 there? It's practically nothing, right? All the difficult stuff came before. But I didn't have to understand a single thing in this question just because there's only one thing I could have done at each stage. And so I just did it. And so just to recap, If you know that coordinate, if you know coordinate and equation, you can plug it in. If you know equation, you can rewrite it to get y equals. And the reason you do that is that you could then read off the gradient and the y-intercept. If you ever have a gradient, any gradient in a question, you can also flip it and minus it to get a perpendicular gradient. And a bit of exam technique, this probably won't come in until around question 20 onwards. So if you're getting it in question 1, it's very, very unlikely you get a perpendicular gradients question in questions like 1 to 10. It might happen, but it's unlikely. Once you have a new gradient, 2/7, almost always the thing that you would do there is write y equals mx plus c, but without a new gradient. And again, now I was stuck here, but it's like if you're stuck here, but you still have the coordinates left from somewhere else in the question, you could plug that in and see what happens. Go and find c, and then rewrite this equation with your new value of c. And then if you got stuck there, you got 3 out of 4. You got 3 out of 4 on a really, really difficult question that most people are getting 0 on. And that just feels like an amazing thing to be able to do without even reading the question. Remember, I didn't even look at a single word in this question. All I did was look at those numbers and that number. And by the way, I didn't look at this question beforehand and like come up with this thing and be like, I'm going to pretend that I haven't read the question. I genuinely did not read this question. I had no idea what the question was about. I happen to know that when they say rhombus and diagonals, okay, I do know that this question will end up being about perpendicular lines, but I didn't need to even know that. I tried not to look at it, but I glanced at it. But to be completely honest with you, I had no idea what this question was all about, and I got 3 out of 4 without even reading it. And I'm not doing that to show off. I'm doing that to convince you guys that even if you're completely stuck on a question, just look at the maths, do whatever you can, and I promise you, you're going to get loads and loads of marks for doing it.